Placement matches in competitive video games are easily one of the most stressful and intimidating aspects of a ranked experience. The pressure of doing well often feels crippling, games end up feeling a little chaotic, and your excitement is at an all-time high. When combined, these different variables can lead to a pretty inconsistent experience, so here's a few Masters level tips to help you get the rank you deserve. Tip number 1. Play conservatively. I know there's probably a handful of you who sighed hearing me say that, but frankly it's the truth. The first few days of ranked are always chaos. There's typically some new legend, a map change, pros and preds forgetting that they're playing ranked, and oftentimes even a completely reworked rank system. All of that randomness obviously leads to ridiculous and unpredictable sweaty matches. Next up, number 2. Don't ignore your mental. Unfortunately, this rank system doesn't really care about how well you can hide your emotions. You can pretend to be stone cold, untiltable, and hey, maybe your friends will believe you, but your LP won't. These first 10 games are a fairly big deal to a lot of people. Sure, you can find some comfort in knowing that you'll never derank, but to say these games have zero consequence is wrong. I know for me personally, my confidence in gameplay tempo is always all over the place at the beginning of the season. The fear of not knowing who I'm going to run into just ends up adding a lot of stress, and I often feel a little overwhelmed. Dude, I'm having a hard time with almost anxiety today. If this ends up happening to you in game, take a deep breath, remind yourself, hey, it's a game, I've been this ranked before, I can hang out, I'll be fine. Overwhelmed feelings aside, if you're 3 games deep and things aren't going too well, you're starting to get angry, maybe even upset, please take a break. It doesn't have to be a long one, could be a few minutes, could be an hour, or if you really need it, just come back tomorrow. If anything, waiting will actually benefit you. People are going to start getting back in the rhythm of things, and you'll probably have a more consistent experience. Speaking of causes for anger, number 3, third party. With the influx of professional, pred, masters, whatever players, there will be an influx of ego in your lobby. All these insane players who know their hot stuff are going to be getting eliminations non-stop. They're going to be going for huge games, and in general, they're not going to have respect for anybody. So here's what you're going to want to do. You're going to look for somewhere that has a whole lot of chaos going on. You're going to grab a marksman rifle, an AR you're comfortable controlling recoil with, or maybe even a sniper, and you're going to take some pot shots. Obviously, I don't want you to be an annoying pest that never gets in there, but if you can end up knocking somebody who's a significant amount better than you, the gamer's going to reward you with a skill bonus, and that's going to be incredibly worth it. And the benefits don't even end there. That cheeky little knock or elimination you got from a distance is ultimately going to affect the rest of the game. At the end of the day, that is one less sweaty team you're going to have to deal with. I'm going to go ahead and add on to that a little bit. Take this as a tip number 3.5 type of thing. If you're in a 3 stack or just have some really solid randoms, go ahead and go crazy. If you know you're going to win fights, by all means, do your thing. Number 4, making sure you get that placement. Oftentimes, things hit the fan, for lack of a better term, and you're left with pretty much no option. There's no more respawns in zone, Moby's not in crafter, and you probably forgot to pick a support character. I know this is a sensitive topic, seeing as season 17 and 18 just passed, but let's go ahead and talk about ratting. Personally, while it may not be super fun, this is probably one of the most effective strategies. Just remember, be patient. A few minutes of ratting will guarantee all the caffeine snorting gamers will wipe themselves out, giving you a free top 10. Tip number 5. This goes along with my 3.5. I probably should have just waited to talk about it, but oh well, I'm not very organized. Eliminations are absolutely massive this time around, at least in comparison to season 17 and 18, so it's safe to say that they're fairly encouraged. The issue with this playstyle is the chaos, the unknown. You can't always control situations around you. This is a battle royale at the end of the day, which means there's a fair bit of random things that happen. But here's a few things you can do to minimize the randomness. First of all, legend selection. You need to make sure that you pick characters with fantastic resetting abilities such as Conduit, Gibby, Catalyst, Bangalore, Newcastle, Revenant, and I don't know, you know the characters in the game. You can figure it out. But yeah, you want to make sure you're using characters that can A, deny pushes, B, block sightlines, C, take advantage of strong loot such as gold knock, DG threat, gold helmet, and in general, your goal is going to be to snowball your lead or your pressure. If you got a digi threat early on, then it's probably worth bang smoking people and getting in there. If you have red armors early on, you quite literally have 50 more health than everybody else in the lobby. That's insane. So yeah, make use of that, dude. Tip number 6. This is mainly for a lot of you solo queue guys. I strongly believe that you should start adding randoms. Not just any random though. You should make it a point to add people you enjoy, whether it be their energy, they make you laugh, they have good comms, or somebody who's just cracked out of their mind. I know a lot of you struggle with fear of rejection, and that very well can happen, but it I don't know. It's not that deep, man. If the Revenant that popped off from your last game doesn't want to play again, don't take it personally. You gave it a shot, go again. I will say, if they end up being your random the next game, that's going to be a fairly awkward conversation, but that's on you at this point. I do want to go ahead and emphasize one thing though. This isn't going to affect like 98% of my view base because you're mainly men, but for any women, trans people, or whatever else gamers decide to hate for that day, just know that there's a fair amount of people out there who aren't going to disrespect you. I know the internet makes it seem pretty prevalent, and it's often easy to fixate on these negative experiences, but I promise you that there are good people out there. In my experience, for every one angry raging nerd I get, there'll be at least 5 times as many nice people. But once again, like my audience, I am just a dude. Tip number 7, read teams from afar. Apex is fairly unique in the way you can predict an entire team's playstyles solely off the way they approach you. This is something that you absolutely need to take advantage of. If a team looks like they've had one too many coffees, go ahead and try and punish them while they run through an open field to get to you, or simply run away. If you're gonna choose to run away though, be quick, don't hesitate. On the opposite side of the spectrum, if a team looks like a pair of headless chickens or is overly conservative to a fault, then go ahead and take advantage of that. I know I said to play conservatively earlier, but that doesn't mean to play scared. If you know that you're better than a team, take them out. The less teams there are, the more controlled of an environment you have. It's always worth it, and we can always use more loot and confidence. Last thing I'll say about this is if somebody looks like they're not using their brain, take note of that. I know we've all had a situation where we think we can fight a team because they're being dumb, and then they just end up stalling and we get third-partied. This is pretty much a universal experience at this point, but that's not an excuse anymore, okay? We're 19 seasons deep. If you think you're gonna get third-partied, do something about it. Off to tip number 8. The worst thing, by far, that you can do in Apex Legends is hesitate. Despite this game's incredible abilities and long time to kill, hesitation will still end up messing you up 99% of the time. There's really no easy way to go about avoiding this or training this skill, but a few things you can do to alleviate some of this hesitation is to plan ahead. Think of the situation you're going to get yourself into. What's your plan A? What's your plan B? Do you have ultimates? All these different factors are things that you should take into account if you want to avoid hesitating. This whole hesitation thing has always been a problem for Apex Legends, but especially now with Conduit and Revenant ult, that extra 2 to 5 seconds you take just freaking out trying to figure out what to do, it can seriously just change the way the fight works out. By the time you've decided whether or not to push the guy you've cracked, he's either already batted, already popped Conduit Q, thrown down a Bangalore ult, or done something crazy with Revenant. The only other thing I'll add on to this is that it's often better to make a mistake together than to overthink something, take a long time, and leave your team alone. Tip number 9. This one's generic, much like my name, but here it goes. Have fun. This is a video game. There's honestly no need to obliterate your self-worth over the fact that you placed lower than you wanted to. This season is 105 days long. The last thing you want to do is sour the entire thing because of a bad first few days. If you're playing alone and have some bad teammates, have sympathy. They're probably just as stressed out as you are. If you're playing with friends, don't take your anger out on them. I know that the game's frustrating at times, and often our buddies get a little bit too comfortable and make bad decisions, but it's just a game, dude. It's a silly little game. Have fun, make friends, take it easy.
Oh my God.